everyone, my name is Jimmy and welcome to The Last Lap. And in today's video we're going to be breaking down everything that happened from Bristol Motor Speedway. It was the cutoff race for the round of 16 and 4 drivers were eliminated. We're going to talk about all of that, but before we hop into it, just want to remind you guys, hit that like button and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it if you did that. And you can also check out our social media pages, which are linked in the description as always. But without further ado, I always have to introduce my friend and co-host Matthew, who is slowly but surely making his way to join me on the show today, and it is sad boy hours for Matthew and all Kyle Busch fans out there. I'm so sorry about that, but it's going to be a great video because Matthew is going to go on a crazy tear in a little bit after I summarize the race and everything. But Matthew, sorry about your loss, but how you feeling after Bristol? Have you recovered yet? It's been about 24 hours-ish since the race, since we're recording this, but how you feeling today, buddy?
Well, first of all, no, you're definitely not sorry. I know that. And you think I'm feeling better since then? No. It's been an awful 24 hours actually. I'm just having a good old time out here. I'm sure you're gonna have all the fun tonight, while I have to basically suffer all night long, basically. So let's just get this over with.
All right. So I'm gonna break down the race and everything happened. I'm sure I'll be right there with you in a few weeks. You know, I don't know if Chase is going to win the championship and everything. He might get knocked out of the round of 12, the round of 8, or maybe the championship 4 and not win the championship. I don't know, but I'm sure I'll be right there with you in a little bit. But let's go ahead and recap this race. So it was chaos. I honestly don't even know where to begin. This race was absolutely insane the whole day. The Fords, they had flat tires. The Toyotas had mechanical issues. Everything seemed to be going on for everybody. But Austin Cindric and Ryan Blaney, they both had flat tires early in stage 1. Then when Ryan Blaney pitted, he lost a wheel on pit road. So that just made things even worse. But it was Brad Keselowski who won the first stage. Very surprising to see that. The RFK cars, they had speed all day, as you could tell by who won the race, and Brad Keselowski being fast. But then stage 2, this is where the Toyotas start to get bit. Bubba Wallace, Ty Gibbs, and Martin Truex Jr. all had to go behind the wall for power steering issues, probably within like 20 laps of each other. All three of them just parked it behind the garage and had power steering issues. And then Denny Hamlin ended up having a tire issue, and Christopher Bell would win the second stage. He got 19 total points in both stages, which he did that this week and at Kansas the previous week. So Christopher Bell, arguably one driver you have to really watch out for. Let's see. And then this is where the sadness starts to set in. Kyle Busch, he unfortunately blew an engine for the second time in 3 weeks. At Darlington, it happened while he was leading. At Bristol, it happened here while he was running above the cut line at the time at a pretty healthy position. So very unfortunate for Kyle Busch. And then there was a big crash on the backstretch. Multiple cars were involved. It all started with Daniel Suarez. He got loose, got into Ricky Stenhouse. That collected both RCR cars who were in the playoffs at the cut line. Logano, he had a flat tire. Brad Keselowski, he had a flat tire as the race leader at the time. And then Christopher Bell had a flat tire as the leader. And I'm a little bit frustrated about this because Brad Keselowski, he did not get a caution for his flat tire, but Christopher Bell did. And, you know, I want to see it equal. You know, if Brad Keselowski doesn't get a caution, Christopher Bell shouldn't get a caution. But I don't know. Apparently they were like, oh, Christopher Bell was in the middle of lap traffic and everything, and Brad Keselowski could get to pit road. I don't know, but I just want to see a little bit of equality there with those caution calls. And then, with this caution, 2 more playoff drivers had issues on pit road. It was Kevin Harvick. He lost a tire on pit road, and then Denny Hamlin almost lost a tire. He had to back it up. But both of those drivers had trouble. Harvick needed to win. And at this point in the race, Kyle Busch was just below the cut line. Austin Cindric was just above the cut line. And I'll talk about something else later about the cut line. But Chris Buescher, he took 2 tires on the restart and basically checked out, and nobody could catch him. Chase Elliott was second. The other 300 cars besides Alex Bowman, who had an issue earlier in the race, they were running second, third, fourth for a while. Christopher Bell was slowly starting to catch up. He got up to fourth place, but nobody ended up catching Chris Buescher, who ended up winning the race. His 222 race winless streak snapped, a 5-year drought for RFK Racing. Last time they won was with the 17 car, and it was with Ricky Stenhouse when he won those 2 super speedway races back in the day. So a 5-year drought for them, and non-playoff drivers sweep the first round. You have Eric Jones winning at Darlington, Bubba Wallace winning last week, and Chris Buescher winning this week. And also to add on, that's 19 different winners. I don't think anybody really saw us getting 12 at the start of this season. But we got 19 now, which is absolutely insane. But yeah, absolutely incredible for Chris Buescher to win that race. And unfortunately, the 4 drivers who end up walking away and getting cut are Kevin Harvick, who had the issue. He pretty much needed to win today, but he had the issue at Darlington with the car catching on fire and all of that. Didn't have a great run at Kansas, and then didn't win today. Austin Dillon was he needed a spectacular round because he was already so far down with those bonus points. He was not able to move on. Tyler Reddick today just didn't really, or at Bristol didn't really just have the speed. He was back there with his teammate most of the day, and then he had the blown tire while he was leading at Kansas last week. Tyler Reddick, a lot of Championship 4 favorites, including yourself. You put Tyler Reddick in the Championship 4. I know Eric Estep had him as his champion overall for the whole playoffs, and that was quickly busted. And unfortunately, Kyle Busch also eliminated. 2 blown engines in the same round is not going to cut it. But let me quickly go over the top finishers, and then I'll toss it over to Mr. Matthew over there. As you guys can see, just a few playoff drivers on the screen right here. Second to sixth, you got Denny Hamlin and Harvick rounding out the top 10. Good runs for AJ Allmendinger and Cole Custer. They got top 10s, great for them. And then the other playoff drivers, as you guys can see, Chase Briscoe, I think he had a pretty clean race. Started on the front row, or started in the top 5, and then he just kind of hung around, advanced to the next round. Daniel Suarez obviously got caught in that accident. Cindric with his tire issues, Reddick accident, Joey Logano issues, Blaney tire issues, and then as you guys can see, everybody else. But without further ado, I'm going to grab some popcorn right here and get ready for what Matthew has to say. So, Matthew, go ahead and take it away, buddy. I'll be sitting here eating my popcorn. I just spilled it. Well, great job to me, but hey, video content, you guys love to see it. But Matthew, go ahead and talk about what you saw at Bristol while I eat my popcorn and clean up the mess I just made. So go ahead and go for it.
Well, that's what you get for being so petty over there. We got Richard Petty over here on the screen. But, alright. Before I get to what I really want to talk about, I want to first talk about Chris Buescher. If you would have told me at the beginning of the year that Chris Buescher would win before Brad Keselowski did, I would have called you crazy. Because Brad Keselowski, of course, is a champion. He has so many wins in the Cup Series. He's going to be a Hall of Famer one day. And I thought, with him going to ROK, I thought Brad will obviously win first over Chris Buescher. Well, it's been the complete opposite, actually. Chris Buescher's actually shown the more consistency to run up front than Brad this year. Like, we saw Chris Buescher almost win at Sonoma, finishing second. He almost won Richmond, fighting Kevin Harvick for the lead until his car just basically got, not to his liking. So he finished third. Chris Buescher has been really good this year. I mean, it's just the same thing I've talked about with Eric Jones. Eric Jones when he won Darlington. He's had a very quiet, consistent year. It's basically been his best statistical year. And people keep forgetting this is not his first Cup win. He did, in fact, win a Cup race in 2016 in his rookie year with a front row motorsports car at Pocono. But it was, of course, it was a rain-shortened race, or fog-shortened race. And of course, this win it must feel a lot better considering he was able to complete all the laps and he was able to beat everyone with the strategy that he pulled with 2 tires. Now, in all fairness, Brad Keselowski also had really good speed, just like his teammate. He just had some bad luck this race. So Brad Keselowski could have also won as well. So I won't entirely criticize Brad with his performance this year, but yeah, I'm happy for Chris Buescher. 19 different winners. I don't have to say any more about that. I feel like we're just going to get over 20 wins and 20 different drivers winning at this point. Who knows? So, as for the race itself, all the chaos and all the playoff drama kept this race interesting. But on the racing perspective, I didn't really like it, to be honest. Now, I mean, I was kind of getting a little bit Martinsville flashbacks from earlier this year. Now, I thought this race was definitely better than Martinsville. Let's get that out of the way. It is better than Martinsville this year, but I was starting to see some similar things that were happening in that same race. The tires didn't fall off. The only thing that basically happened was the Fords blowing all the tires, basically, all the right fronts, basically. That's the only type of tire wear they're getting, basically. But the tires just did not wear at all. And, I mean, I've said this to basically all the short track races and road courses. They need to add more horsepower. They had 750 horsepower the last couple of years, and we had some of the amazing short track races last year or the last couple of years. And I feel like with the rear diffuser and less horsepower, you just can't pass anyone, especially when it comes to the battle for the lead. Now, Brad Keselowski was literally the only driver that could pass for the lead, basically, which was impressive. No one else could. I mean, once you get behind someone, it's done. Your car is just basically stalls, basically, and you can't go and you can't close in on them, and that's kind of ridiculous. So, if I'm NASCAR, you got to add more horsepower to these short tracks and road courses. If you're going to add more short tracks in the future, like North Wilkesboro next year, the Auto Club revamp in a couple of years, heck, maybe Nashville Fairgrounds in the future, you got to add more horsepower. Now, the package that they have at intermediates and bigger have been perfect this year. Don't change that. You just got to change the short track and road courses, because that's just not working for me. So, besides the racing aspect, all the playoff chaos and everything basically made the race more interesting. So that helps there. So, okay. Now let's get to the drivers that were eliminated. I'm going to start off with Kevin Harvick at first. Of course, he's had two very bad races. The first two races were bad for him. The fluke fire at Darlington, which was nothing of his doing. It was just, as he quoted, crappy parts. And then Kansas, he got chastained, basically, and ended his day early. And he was basically in the must-win coming into Bristol. He had a really good car. I mean, he was in the top 5 a lot in the evening. But, of course, the pit crew choked, and they did not get the wheel tight and basically came off. I don't think that would be a penalty, though, because he didn't, leave out of the pit road. He basically left a little bit out of his pit stall and then came back, so I don't think that would be a penalty. But, yeah, his pit crew absolutely choked away a chance of a must-win. So Kevin Harvick's out for that reason. Austin Dillon, which was absolutely no surprise to me why he got eliminated. I mean, it took a 30-car pileup for him to make it the playoffs. So I didn't expect much. So, yeah, not surprised. Now, Tyler Reddick is one that I am so shocked. And I can't blame it all on Reddick because it was bad luck, in my opinion. I mean, he finished top 5 at Darlington. Great start. Then he was leading at Kansas. I'm like, man, he's going to have a good car. Then the tire blows and hits the wall. So that was absolutely bad luck. And then Bristol, they chose an absolute worst race to not have any speed because they were a no-show that race. And then it got caught up in that wreck and there were multiple laps down. So That's really unfortunate because I did have him in my championship four. I had so much confidence in Tyler Reddick, especially how the second half of the season went for him, and I thought he was gonna be able to show everyone that he could bring an RCR car to the championship four before Kyle Busch can next year, or at least he'll try to next year. But unfortunately, that didn't work out too well for him, so he's out. Alright, now let's get to the part that I know Jimmy's looking forward and everyone else is looking forward for me to talk about. Of course, Kyle Busch, out of the first round at his best track at Bristol, 9 wins. Everything was going right for Kyle. I mean, he had a very good car. I didn't think he had a car to win per se, but he had a really good top 5, top 10 car early. And he was comfortably in the playoffs as long as nothing happened. But of course, it's the 18 car. We all know how this goes. It doesn't matter how good of a car he has. It doesn't matter how bad of a car he has. Something bad is going to happen to it. And what do you know? An engine blew at Bristol Motor Speedway. How in the world does that happen? How in the world can you blow an engine at Bristol Motor Speedway? And I'm just baffled because I thought Darlington was a fluke thing. I'm like, of course, more bad luck. But this one, I'm starting to raise some eyebrows on this one. Now, I'm not going to be one of those conspiracy theorists here like, oh man, Toyota JGR set him up for failure here. But it just sounds so fishy. Especially after when he was out of the race. Instead of, Toyota and Joe Gibbs trying to help, a Toyota driver stay in the playoffs, do you know what Toyota does? They let both 2311 cars who are affiliated with Joe Gibbs Racing back on the racetrack. And they knew dang well that they would pass him and Kyle will lose points. They're not stupid. They knew that that's what was going to happen. If there was any other organization, they would not let that happen. But they let that happen. It's like JGR and Toyota did not want Kyle Busch to be in the next round or have any shot at a championship. I mean, I saw a tweet earlier, and it said, man, this reminds me of 2007 when Dale Jr. announced he was going to Hendrick Motorsports. Do you know what started happening? All his engines started blowing up. Started blowing up, and next thing you know, he was out of the playoffs. So there's a lot of similarities here, and it's fishy. And I mean, of course, it's just I have lost respect with Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota after this. I mean, I can't say about the engine thing. I mean, who knows? But for Toyota and Joe Gibbs to let 2 Toyota race cars that were clearly out of the race, out of contention, multiple laps down, 100 laps down actually, to let them out so that they can pass them in points is absolutely unacceptable. And no other organization would do that. I mean, Kyle Busch gave Joe Gibbs Racing 15 years of success. They gave Toyota the first win in NASCAR. He gave Toyota their first championship in NASCAR. He's breaking so many records with Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota. And this is how they're going to send him off. Give him the worst car, maybe not the worst, the worst equipment that you can have where things will just break and blow up easily. Oh, and if other Toyotas have any issues, we're just going to let them out and make sure he doesn't make it on. They clearly do not want him to be in advance in the playoffs. They'd rather see Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell advance because that's the drivers that are staying long term. And Martin Truex, but he's out of the playoffs, so I'll exclude him for that one. But it's just a shame, and that's unacceptable from Joe Gibbs. of course, like, okay, I'm not trying to say that that's what their intentions are. I'm not saying that, but it just sounds too fishy, especially after this is the second engine in the first round. Two out of three races, and they let two of their Toyota affiliated teammates back on the track, they passed them basically for points. So it just sounds too fishy, and I've lost a lot of respect, and I cannot wait for Kyle Busch to go to Richard Childress next year. Because if I was Richard Childress, he would never let that happen. Let's just be clear here. And if I'm Kyle Busch, I'd rather just stay home for the rest of the playoffs. I mean, why bother driving the car that clearly JGR doesn't want you to be in anymore, basically? They gave up on him when it comes to sponsorship. They had a full year to get ready for a new sponsor, and they failed him. They gave up, basically. They're like, oh, well, too bad. Well, yeah, you gotta go. They did not care. And now they don't, and apparently they don't care about him advancing the playoffs. And, I mean, why do you want to come back to that? I mean, I just don't get it. And Kyle Busch is being way too nice in these interviews now. It's driving me nuts here. Now, I know, hey, it's mature Kyle and all, but if I'm Kyle Busch, I'm saying, man, that sounds fishy too. 2 out of 3 races, blown engine in the first round, really? If I'm Kyle Busch, I'm going to call them out, because what's he got to lose? He's not going to be in that ride next year anyway, so you might as well call out for their pettiness and unacceptable. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. I'm sure you enjoyed your popcorn there, Jimmy, but yeah, that's all I have to say. Congratulations to Chris Buescher. That's the main point here. And yeah, I'm ready for these playoffs to end now for me. Well, I guess the only good thing about it is I can sit back and relax now, watch other playoff drivers suffer, basically.
Yeah, so thankfully I finished all my popcorn and I was able to listen to everything you said. I couldn't hear you at first, but I caught on and got all of that. So very glad that I was able to hear what you said there. You know, I expect a little more frustration, but you handled it well, just like Kyle Busch. I think you're kind of matching his personality, you know, being passive aggressive about it and everything. But real quick, I do want to give my 2 cents about it as just like an overall spectator. So the whole, you know, equipment thing, I honestly don't really believe this year with the next gen car, at least, that like certain drivers get better equipment than others, because I think like drivers just adapt and get hot and get cold throughout the year. I mean, look at Henry Motorsports. William Byron popped off at the beginning of the year, then he cooled off, and Chase Elliott popped off, and now it seems like he's cooled off, and maybe Kyle Larson's getting a little bit better. So I don't really think there's like an equipment, somebody gets better equipment at least this year in the next gen car. And if you look at Kyle Busch, him and Martin Truex have been the less two better JGR cars this year, in my opinion, and Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin have been a little bit better. And it's been consistent that way all year, but I mean, 2 engine failures in 3 races does seem a tiny bit fishy, but I don't think there's any, you know, Kyle Busch has to get this engine, it's not the best or anything like that. But the whole thing that the Toyotas did on the track, I do not like that at all, like you said. Hindsight, I don't think it really would have affected Kyle Busch's playoff points anyway, because Ty Gibbs came back off the track and was behind Kyle Busch, technically, and Bubba Wallace stayed out there and passed him, but I think it was still 2 or 3 points, so I don't think it really affected Kyle. But still, like, the action of them doing that is definitely not cool at all. Like, why would you send 2 Toyotas back on the track when you know Kyle Busch is sitting in the garage and you know you're going to pass him and take a point away from him? I don't get that at all, and I completely understand why you're frustrated with Toyota and Joe Gibbs Racing and all of that. I would be too. That is completely unacceptable, I think. But yeah, that ended up happening. Unfortunate break for you and your driver. So I'll ask you can answer this when I hand it back to you, but who are you going to root for now that your driver's out of the playoffs. I'll let you think about it for a few minutes because I could go to the playoff grid, but go ahead and start thinking about that. But as for the drivers that did move on, Chase Elliott, he resumes the points lead once again since it resets. He's at the top, looking pretty good, hopefully. As a Chase Elliott fan, I hope he doesn't butcher the first race again and fight for his life the next two races. Joey Logano, Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson, they're in decent shape-ish. And then you got William Byron in 5th, 6 points above. And then you got 3 drivers, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and Ryan Blaney, tied for 6th, just 4 points above the cut line. Then below the cut line, you got Briscoe, Bowman, Suarez, and Cindric, all separated by just 3 points. And Briscoe's 4 back. So this is going to be another crazy round. You thought the first one was crazy. The second one's going to be just as intense because there's several drivers in single digits above and below the cut line. So I'll go ahead and rate this race real quick, and then we will toss it back to Matthew. So like you said earlier on, like the playoff drama was crazy. So many drivers had issues. There were tire issues, power steering issues, wrecks, all that kind of stuff. That was crazy. As for the racing itself, kind of mid. You know, it was a little better than Martinsville, but not the best. So I don't really know how to rate this. Like for playoff drama, it's like a 9, and for racing, it's like a 3. So like, what's the middle of that? Like a 6.5 or something. So I'll give it like a 6.5 out of 10, combining those two factors. But Matthew, what are you gonna go ahead and rate this race?
I'll give it a 5 out of 10 for me. Put more horsepower in the car. That's all you have to do. 5 out of 10. Oh, and also the drivers I'll be looking at for the playoffs now is Christopher Bell, because I do like Christopher Bell. Of course, he's a KBM alumni, and he's on fire so far in the playoffs. So I gotta keep my eye on Christopher Bell, and I'm also gonna keep my eye on Austin Cindric as well. He did make it to the second round. I feel like the second round for Austin Cindric is basically like perfect for him. I mean, Texas is Texas, but he did finish second at the All-Star race. Talladega, a super speedway. He won the Daytona 500 on the super speedway. And then the Charlotte Roval. We all know how good Austin Cindric is on road courses. So I got to keep my eye on Austin Cindric as well.
Yeah, that's Austin Cindric's a sleeper to watch in this next round. And also, we have to look at our playoff bracket right here that we absolutely butchered the first time. I'll give you guys a quick little zoom at it. Both of us had Briscoe, Cindric, Bowman, and Austin Dillon out the first round. And the only one of those drivers who got eliminated was Austin Dillon. So were 1 for 4 the first time around. And one other quick thought about the next gen car real quick. I don't know if this is like possible next year or in the future, but I think they need to bump it back to 4 gears instead of 5, because at least at Martinsville when they were shifting, that made it a lot easier to drive the car around. So I think a combination of more horsepower and 4 gears would definitely help out the racing. So I don't know if they can make it 4 gears or not, but I hope they can. But anyways, Matthew, what other closing thoughts do you have before we wrap the video up?
So I want to talk about Xfinity for a little bit. There's 2 drivers that I'm extremely disappointed with. Oh, and actually one more thing. It was so funny when Martin Truex Jr. basically flipped off his car there when he got out the car. That was funny. And also Noah Gragson, you gotta control your stomach, man. Stop lay off the burgers and barbecue before the race, man, or beer, because that's not healthy for you when you're basically acting like Steve-O and throwing up all the time. So, okay. 2 drivers that I'm extremely disappointed with in the Xfinity Series. One is Landon Castle. I had high expectations coming to this season, the beginning of the season, because he was finally given his big break, basically. I thought he was able to exceed, because we see him exceed in worse equipment than what he has. And he doesn't even make the playoffs. I mean, that's disappointing to me. And I was looking forward to see Landon Castle could win. I feel like he could, because he was exceeding his bad equipment, but He didn't, so that was disappointing. What's even more disappointing is Daniel Hemrick, his teammate in the Xfinity Series, the reigning series champion. Where has he been? I forget he's even in the race a lot of time, most of the time. He has not shown up. He's becoming more of an embarrassment of an Xfinity champion than maybe even Matt Crampton when he didn't even win a race in the Truck Series in 2019. I mean, he has not shown up. I mean, I thought he finally got the win. He won the championship. I thought he was able to finally win more races now. Now he got that monkey off his back, but nope, it's been worse actually. So it's just disappointing. So yeah, that's all. That's the rare Xfinity discussions that I have.
And you have AJ Allmendinger winning the regular season championship. So you got him up there winning races, winning the regular season championship. The other two colored cars just not showing up. So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely a downgrade for Daniel Hemrick from JGR to Kaulig. In my opinion, it was a downgrade, but I would have at least expected him to win one, maybe two races throughout the season, but he just has not shown up this year. But yeah, the Xfinity playoffs are about to start. Truck playoffs are right in the middle. Cup playoffs are in the middle. It's going to be a crazy rest of the season. So we hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys stay tuned to our social media channels for updates. But until next time, we'll see you guys in the next video.